little catchphrase like "Wake up in the AM." I stole that from somebody, but "Wake up in the AM with AM" or something like that. But how are y'all doing? It's the Conversation with Jim Anderson show. I'm your co-host Austin Martin. We'll be joined by Jim in a second, as well as Murray in a little bit as we're kind of getting settled in the booth. We're joined today by a guest that's important to me. I did an internship recently at an organization called Push Buffalo. And while I was there, I got a chance to be introduced and really get a chance to see Reverend Doc. That's a double title, Reverend Dr. Majadi. And this man, the poetry, the energy in which he spoke is something that I tried to take and emulate in my own speaking as well. Our other guests are other hosts are getting settled in here. Are you going to say hello?
They hear you. That ain't enough for me, y'all. I love Austin and Murray and Dr. Majadi. Look, medicine over there are taken. I ain't going nowhere. I'm here. I'm here. That's all you need to know.
Well, that's good to hear. I just want them to get a chance to hear your voice, at least because, like you said, it's medicine over there. I'm going to swing it to my right. Mr. Murray, how are you doing today?
Wonderful. Blessed to be here on the Jim Anderson show. Just looking forward to the conversation that's going to take place today. To God be the glory.
Absolutely. I know we have some news to talk about later, which you'll be covering on. So stay tuned for that. Before I get to our guest, if you want to call in, because I know he's going to be saying some stuff that may pique your interest, you can call in at 716-837-1112. Call and say, hey, call with a question. Just keep it on topic. We appreciate it. Dr. Majadi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good-ish. I keep saying good-ish.
Good-ish. What's the ish?
The ish is that the planet is having all types of issues, not only seemingly random fires. People think these are random, but they're not. They are caused by human interaction with the planet. The seas are rising. I was just speaking to Baba Jim about the seas rising throughout the Caribbean, throughout the planet, polar ice caps melting. And I remember someone once on Facebook put out that climate organizers like myself, I'm climate justice organizer at Push Buffalo, that we're agents. And I asked the question, agent of what? Push Buffalo pays me a decent wage, but an agent of what? Who am I being paid by to make up stories about what is happening that people are actually experiencing on this planet? And so the climate work, it makes me feel, some kind of way, because I'm really earth-centered. I'm into flowers and growing things, and I'm an urban farmer, descendant of farmers from Alabama. I'm looking at the stuff happen. I'm looking at the shift in how the flowers grow. One year, a couple of years ago, we tried to grow some okra in Birmingham, Alabama, and the okra, okra is about 7, 8, 9 feet tall.
We don't know that.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You gotta educate.
We not in Buffalo. We not in concrete jungle.
I was telling somebody the other day that Black Northerners are Black Southerners who just happen to be in the North.
Yes.
We're Southerners. We eat collard greens, cornbread, this type of thing. This is a real thing, right? Mm-hmm. But the okra was short. It was like 2 feet high. It's still fruited. We still have some okra, but we were like, what is going on with this okra? This is part of what's happening with the climate as well as the environment that affects the climate. So it's a large conversation. So I say good-ish as I'm engaging these things. Every morning I get up and there's all kinds of stuff happening and I'm paying attention to it so I can try to keep folks aware of what's going on.
And I think that is the mindset that people hear and they think it's not over here, right? They think, oh, polar ice caps, I'm in Buffalo. But what people fail to realize, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but the environment that we live in really does dictate the mindset. I know one thing I really appreciate. I live in Cheektowaga, so real close to Buffalo. I don't know. Trees, shade.
Trees.
So my car, for many years, I'm young, just turned 20, just had a birthday.
Congratulations.
My car ain't had a best AC all the time. That shade was essential. So when I'm parking outside of houses and I come back out and I feel like I'm in a rotisserie oven, right? Shade is important, right? Trees are important. You don't think about it when you're walking down the sidewalk. It means something. Seeing flowers, seeing actual growth matters. We see the 33 plan and how that might affect Buffalo. There are things happening right here, and it's not just about things that are happening in the environment. it's affecting our pockets as well, correct?
Yes, it's all connected. So a lot of the work that we've been focused on at Push Buffalo is dealing with the legislation that was passed in 2019. In 2019, New Yorkers voted on a climate law. It's a big package of packages that can assist us not only in moving towards a safer environment, like cleaning up the environment itself, but also a safer and cleaner climate. What is happening everywhere, actually, not just here in Western New York, not just in the state of New York, but the fossil fuel industry, which I want to make sure people understand, the fossil fuel industry and your utilities are the same thing. Okay, so National Fuel Gas is a utility company. It is a fossil fuel company. It's the way that it pulls the natural gas, which they try to, pardon the expression, they try to gaslight us and say that it is a clean fuel, but that's a falsehood. So they've been doing that, spreading that information for some 50, almost 60 years. The fossil fuel industry has been spreading this misinformation that these types of processes are safe for us and that we're fine. But we're finding of the last 30 years that they are not. And I've got some science, but I'm not going to get too heavy because it's, we only have a small bit of time to deal with this. But what's happening is that Push Buffalo, along with some allies and some community members, back in 2019, established the Climate Jobs and Justice work. We call it the Climate Jobs and Justice Package, the CJJP. And right now, one of the more important parts of that we're pushing, all of them are important, but the thing that we're pushing is what's called the New York Heat Act. This New York Heat Act can help not only start pushing National Fuel Gas and other companies towards using safer processes, because they're supposed to follow the law. You know what would happen if you and I were not to follow the law?
Right.
They would put us up under the jail, if we would make it to the jail at all, right? But they're not following the law. They have to follow this and move us towards safer energy processes in electrification. I know people are thinking, yeah, but the electrical grid can break down. Not if it's based on things like solar, wind power, water power. So there are safe processes that can move us into a safe way of living. And this natural gas thing is not it. And National Fuel Gas is actually putting money in the pockets of politicians, developers, what have you, to make sure that these things aren't fully implemented.
So here we are in our time, well, living in Buffalo. Natural gas has been the way we have always lived here.
Yes.
It's hard to tell people to go in the direction of think green or going with solar panels on your house, especially when we have snowstorms that cover up the sun. And so some of them things will affect the way how things work in the city of Buffalo. When you talk about climate change and things like that, there is happening. The snow is heavy, it covers up the panels, and now you're subject to not have electric going in your home or whatever. So some of those things are there. Is justified to say, how do you change it? I'm getting calls all the time from people.
I'm sure you are.
Saying energy, every time. You know what? Yeah. And we're not used to that. Even because you got companies that's already have a monopoly on us, put it that way. You know what I'm saying? Already got it locked in that we've already been trained to go in this direction. So I say to you, we got fracking going on close by here.
Yes.
The Pagulas actually, this is how they made their money.
Yeah.
This is how they bought the team. This is how, their money is if he said it one time that if he lose money, he can always just go start drilling in the ground. And then it affects the water system and things like that there. So I'm saying, how do you get our listeners to understand this? And you're a doctor, and give it to me in layman's term, street term, a little bit, to where we can say, folks, you really need to look into it, because we hear it on the news all the time, and we just go by it. It's just that's a yuppie thing or whatever it might be. So let's put it on urban viewers that's listening in now, and say, how do I get the elders in our community and our young folks to say, let's change the sources that we get, and then take a chance, because most of the time what happens is, Austin, is as soon as your bill is due, they cut you off. But under National Grid and things like there is resources to help you. Do they qualify heat programs, things like that there with these new companies that you're talking about trying to come in and put into place?
So first of all, one of the things that's happening is that Push Buffalo is community led. One of our more powerful dynamics of our work is actually Push Silver. These are our elders, and they are ones that actually have been pushing right, and
Silverback. I don't go there. It's based on
silver because of the hair.
Yeah, okay,
right.
All right.
And I'm about to go into them because I'll be 55 in August.
Yes.
So I'm gonna slip into Push Silver and hang out with them. But yeah, Push Silver, elders and youth, like Brother Austin and other folks have been working on these dynamics, and we are holding upcoming. I'll mention that later on. We'll be holding a popular education classes to show how we can move from this natural gas system, which is like literally deadly. I mean, it's literally deadly, and move on to these safer processes. New York Heat Act, the full implementation of that can not only begin to move us towards that electrification, and again, National Fuel Gas is fighting that. Fossil fuel industries are fighting that, like you said, you were mentioning that they're a monopoly. And monopolies in a free trade. I'm not really, I'm not a capitalist,
right?
But
you have to be.
But free trade is supposed to be for everybody. Everybody's supposed to be involved. We should have some choices. True. And this is a thing. The New York Heat Act would not take away from people their choice to use gas. If they want to use a natural gas, they can. But there are other services, and it's not just solar. One of my favorite dynamics is called geothermal energy.
Yes.
Where it takes a little, it's just a little bit of digging into the planet, and they take a little tiny bit of heat from the consistent heat that stays after a certain number of feet down into the planet. The Earth stays roughly the same temperature.
Right.
And they can draw that back up. It goes through, I believe it's compressor. I don't know some of the science behind it. It goes through this compressor system, and it can heat your home or cool your home all year long, and it's safe, and it will not, more than likely, it will not break down. It'll be your normal wear and tear on systems as it does, but this natural gas thing through these pipes, it's breaking down the pipes, and they keep replacing these pipes. If it was so secure, they wouldn't have to keep replacing the pipes. Why would they keep replacing these pipes? You see them constantly digging up the planet, and every time they dig into the planet, every time they tear it up, every time they frack, every time they pull, every time they extract, they're harming the entirety of the environment. It's a disruption of everything. It'd be like me coming into your house and start tearing up the bathroom and putting up my own designs and then say, you got to use this. And then I keep telling you, this is the only way. And that's what's actually happening. They're actually using our money. National Fuel Gas has been found, and they're being investigated on using our money to talk to lobby against processes that can keep us safe and healthy.
Wow.
And so the geothermal is a safer one. You can pull heat from energy from the planet, but it can also pull energy from the air. So it's an amazing system, and that's just one. But all these things interlacing.
You need a model where you doing all this so we can see it.
Well, yeah, we actually have that. Yes. We have stuff like that. We have there's this brilliant friend of mine, Bill Nowak, and he can just break all this stuff down, and we have models. There's YouTube videos we can put together, and we will be having an upcoming utility justice popular education class.
When is that?
That will be on the 6th of next month.
Okay.
June 6th. Where is it?
It'll be at Push Buffalo's offices at 429 Plymouth Avenue, Suite 1.
So you basically on the west side of Buffalo. So and this is where what you put the push comes. Are you on the east side? Are you on the north side, or just in general all over the city of Buffalo or Erie County?
We're located physically on the west side,
right?
But these processes are for everybody.
Okay,
the entirety. I'm a regional climate justice organizer, so I'm not just
regional.
Yeah,
so that gives us, if they call you up, then it doesn't matter because you live on a certain.
We've been at Meriwether Library. We've been We've been canvassing in different spaces.
Great.
Throughout the city. So Buffalo, but it's for all of us. For the people on the west
side. For the event, could you just repeat the time that it starts again?
We'll be starting at 5. We'll be at 5 to 7. And it's a popular education class on what we call utility justice. I'm going to tie something into that real quick. This is a national conversation. So there are other cities that we have been involved in through this dynamic called People and Planet Cohort. And we met in Milwaukee last year, late last year, along with some of our members. And in meeting with them, we discussed that everybody throughout the United States, or what my fiance refers to as Turtle Island, is having the same issue with these utility companies. And these utility companies, as fossil fuel companies, are ridiculously problematic. Not only, like for instance, National Fuel Gas, I'm trying to keep some of this stuff centered because there's a lot of information in my head and I got a lot of information here. National Fuel Gas, like other ones, have propositioned, we call it our Public Service Commission here in the state of New York, and other people call it Public Utilities Commissions in other states, to raise the rates. So basically, it's like, I've described this before as like paying someone to beat you up. That's what it's like. We're giving them money, and National Fuel Gas produces a problem that's for our entire community. And some of our children have high asthma rates. We have high asthma rates in Buffalo and the other cities. This is happening everywhere. Health, illness. I'll go and say it. My fiance deals with some dynamic. She was in. She is a Afro-Indigenous woman from Louisiana, and she was with child during Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah.
And then a few weeks later, Hurricane Rita. Then she goes to Tennessee, and she had to deal with flooding there in Tennessee. Now, because she's part Indigenous, she moved to Canada, Toronto. But because she's part Indigenous, I was talking to her once when I first got here to Buffalo a year ago about this particular process we're doing in the legislation, and she said, "I don't want to hear that." And I said, "What's wrong, baby? What's wrong?" She said, "What is happening is that my Indigenous sisters, are running out of the forest of Canada due to these forest fires." And my heart just sunk into my stomach, and I said,
which we just had a major forest fire that came this way, and my kids and grandkids was like, the smoke travels.
And that's what she was referencing.
Yes.
And that
I
just
think we got a
dropped me
caller
to
on the
Yeah,
air.
about to say, caller, you are on the air. Good morning. Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Oh, great. Good morning. Good morning. I actually called the wrong station. I thought it was WBS rather than WUFO. I must apologize because I'm not even cognizant of what your topic is. So are you talking about the cities in Buffalo?
Yeah, we're talking about the city of Buffalo, and we're talking about environmental change and environmental justice in the city of Buffalo to make our heating safer and our environment safer for the residents of Buffalo.
Okay. I do have a comment about that. What I see going on is the issue of and some people will agree with me nationally who look at areas like Buffalo and Chicago and other things. There is unfortunately, there's an area in Buffalo that you call the white flight. I remember when I was 12 years old and I moved into the Bailey Kensington area. I played with kids with all types of ethnicities, just like cowboys and Indians and all these other things these kids today would say, "Oh, that is so corny. I would never play that." And anyway, what I found was that the parents are very involved, regardless of how much money they made or how often they had to stay at home. And I don't want to really cast blame on the parents because we do so much about that. And I think that is why the young parents who sometimes are 40 years old and they've got children very close in age and all of that, and they don't have any mentors that they can go to who will be non-judgmental and accept them, because first thing they're going to do is chastise them. Honey, you should be home at night. Why are you out running the streets? But these people may be.
Oh, ma'am.
Yeah.
Hello?
Well, we're listening. We only have an hour, so we don't have that much time. Do you have a particular question you want to ask?
I'm sorry. The last point I want to add is that many of these parents are working 3 jobs, doing the best they can, and then you have the other side of parents who are not paying any attention to their kids whatsoever. So we do have I think there's a major issue in Buffalo, and the only people who can really address it accurately are us that need to reach out to these parents.
Absolutely. We'll talk about that later on the show. We're going to go back. We're going to answer your question. I'll be answering that, but we're going to go back to the topic on hand. energy. We're sitting here with the doctor. What is your name again?
Reverend Dr. Majadi Baruti.
Oh, Reverend Doctor. So you got some stuff with you going on there.
That's what
Yeah.
Double title.
Yeah, all the titles. And so we back to you and talking about, you were talking about other cities. You said Milwaukee. Do you have some Detroits in there? Things like, state and places like that.
We have folks in Detroit, Chicago, Milwaukee. There's places in Massachusetts. There's places that people are not understanding how we're all interconnected, because we're dealing not only with the same issues, but some of our geographies are similar water. Like this is just on like the other side of Lake Erie and Lake Michigan and Great Lakes. And as the waters on the planet rise because of global warming, this is causing all kinds of things. It's not just the waters rising and covering up lands, destroying coral reefs and things of this nature. It affects how the wind flows, which affects how hurricanes and tornadoes are going to be increased unless we pull back from these fossil fuel industries. Part of the problem is the fossil fuel industries are also buttressed by the banking systems, which are buttressed by the developers, which are buttressed by the work of politicians. And so we have an opportunity here to push against some of these politicians. We've been engaging Western New York Assembly members to get them to fully engage the New York Heat Act. For one thing, there's also the Climate Change Superfund Act. I do want to point out that the household energy burden of the poor, let me just say this. So I was at the Central Library in Buffalo.
Yes.
And I was doing a tabling there. I had a conversation with 3 different people who were homeless. They were homeless because they could not engage both the gas bill and their rate of their rent. We have old housing, really, really old housing in Western New York and Buffalo specifically. This causes all types of energy loss.
Of course.
Which makes our bills absurdly high. Now comes national fuel gas, and our household energy burden is basically the percentage of the annual income that we spend on our energy bills. So let's say a family has $30,000 and they spend $3,000 a year on gas and electricity. They got an energy burden of 10%. That is absurdly high. The New York Heat Act specifically will cap it at 6%, which means that we save lots of money. On the east side of New York, it's east side of Buffalo, it could be something like $120 something that people could save every month if this New York Heat Act is involved. That's why we really got to get as many people involved in this pushback and make sure these Western New York Assembly members are doing what they're supposed to do, working on behalf of the folks, and making sure this thing gets passed, as well as other dynamics of the climate law.
So when you were talking earlier, for what you're saying, when you were talking earlier saying, say it in layman's terms to the regular person, it's about money.
Right.
The same reason the politicians aren't making decisions, the same reason why we need to act. It's about money. You can save money a month. And if we're one of the poorest cities in the nation, we're not in a position to say, nah, keep going 20. Yeah. I need that. I need that. And so we need to change our mindset to say that what we're fighting for is ourselves. Because I know I can talk to, it's hard to get that mindset, like, but it's,
you can have it.
But it's, you can, but it's free money.
It's free money.
Right? It's free money on the table. Actually. You don't have to do anything for it.
It's your money.
So this is the money that I'm asking. That's really what I'm asking somebody is you can't get to $1 million if you won't take 100.
But so many people don't want to even take that $120. Like, man, it's a hassle.
So you tell me, as someone who's a little more familiar on the political side, what is the holdup in Buffalo? Why are we so hesitant to take political action, even when it's on issues as important as environmental justice?
Well, first of all, education part is the hardest part.
Right.
That's where what he's doing now is educating people to buy into it. It's a buy-in. It's like you could tell your kids at home, look, save your $10 and then only spend $1. And then you'll see the future. And then most of them, man, it take too long to see your income coming back. So that 120 you're talking about, it take a minute before you even to really see it as an investment. And so that's what he has to do. And then, like I said before, coming in with new companies is hard in Buffalo or Erie County. Let's be clear on that. It's not just Buffalo, because we live in Erie County. And so it affects a lot of people. And then so here we go and trying to do this pitch. It's hard to do. Like you say, you live in Cheektowaga, you might be paying an extra 10% just because you live in the suburbs.
Right.
Taxes is higher and things like that. There's higher. So now you're saying that 120 you got, it's still balancing off. So I'd rather keep my regular heat on opposed to buying and investing in new equipment and all that might not work or might not follow through on a tax break, or when they call for, like I said, with the HEAP program, saying you don't qualify. Is they all in conjunction together to make what your efforts, what you're doing work on lobbying and all that there?
Well, what we're doing is it is attached to those things. It basically buttresses those concepts. So people, they use HEAP and these types of things. When this is not an anti those dynamics. Right. This is to save you even more money than what you're being saved as it is. $136 a month in some people's pockets. So I like to eat. I like to eat a lot.
We see you kind of big. No, we're not joking.
Wait, that's funny. My fiance is from Louisiana. So she a Creole. So
she cook all the time.
She got the gumbo. Yeah, and she got the jambalaya. Yeah. I want more of that.
You should have brought something with you.
So I want more food. But seriously, I got a growing boy in the house.
Yes.
His feet get bigger, he gets taller.
And the heat bill gets longer.
And he eats more food. Right, and the heat bill gets higher.
Yes.
Like, we can counteract all these things with this New York Heat Act, but also we have to stop, and I want to make sure we pinpoint that National Fuel Gas is actually asking for a rate hike. They petitioned the Public Service Commission for a rate hike, while presenting a plan that's supposed to be in tune with the climate law that I'm speaking about that was passed in 2019. They have presented a plan 3 times. Now, if I told my mom 3 different times on why I didn't quite clean my room the way she wanted me to,
right,
I'd have some problems. I'm still scared of Tanya, right? She ain't but like 4'9".
You talk about your wife a lot.
Well, this is my mother.
Oh, this is your mother now.
Yeah. I'm still worried about her. Right.
So let me ask you a question. Yeah. The governor actually has a plan to most homes that's going to be built now will be having those type of
the electrical
and gas. They won't be having. She mentioned it during our storm. Remember, she was like, "Well, we're gonna change over from people using gas," and it went viral. People was like, how dare you, stop gas?
Yeah.
Because I'm saying it this way: when a storm happened, electric don't work. I have seen families that have people have passed away in their homes because the only thing they had was just their gas on.
Right.
And I'm a living witness. My aunt actually lost power. The only thing she had in her house was gas, and now she's dead. See what I'm saying? So things are happening when you only have those little bit of resources. But the governor is saying new homes that's being built will have some of the stuff that you're talking about. So the governor I think she's more aboard of what you're talking about here. Efficiency, why, yes or no?
I'm going to say, based on the budget that just passed, no, she's not.
Oh, so in the beginning it was.
It sounded as, it's kind of like, it's like when the Common Council passes a resolution. It's not an actual law. It's not an actual thing. It's just like me saying, I believe in you, but you're starving, and I don't give you any money so you can feed yourself. But I believe in you. Like, no, that's not enough. You actually have to implement the stuff. So what's happening is that Kathy Hochul and Western New York Assembly members, the Assembly is that last vestige of folks that we need to get moved over to go ahead and fully implement all of the
more lobbying as it takes place.
Right. And the thing is, all of the processes where they fully implemented would take all the doubt out of what people are saying.
Right.
All the data, everything shows that all this stuff, if everything is implemented properly, and it's going to take some time, it's going to take years to do this. And so it's a slow process. And
how slow is it?
It's going to take some years.
You got it in your mind now.
Yeah,
this don't be on the Jim Anderson show. We give it to you like our Jim would say. How long is it going to take to get?
It could take a good 20 some years. So it's a slow process. People think it's like for instance, they were saying before I got here, there was this conversation.
We need to wrap up. We're going to be taking a break soon.
Okay.
Yes.
There was this conversation that basically the people were going to come in and take your gas stoves. That's foolishness. Nobody's coming.
No, I'm saying in new homes.
In 2 o'clock in the morning.
In new homes that's being designed, they were going to be going in that direction.
Yeah, but it's still a slow process to do. And people will have, with the New York Heat Act, they can still access gas.
So we're going to a break right now. Okay. We'll be back with you at the Jim Anderson Show.
Hear that?
Ooh, it's a
That's
little
right.
warm in here, right?
I
It's
wanna,
good. It's a
Timer,
good
Blue
morning.
Cross
It's
Blue
good
Shield,
morning.
I
our
think
digital
definitely
health
getting
tools
people to
are getting better all the
understand
time
how,
at
and we're
listening.
still on live on
Tools that
Facebook.
make it easy
Like
to
Turn it down
take
a little
charge
bit.
of your health and give you the
Definitely
one-on-one
getting
support
people
you
to
need.
understand how, in my opinion, right? 20 years sounds like a long time, right? Sounds like, oh man, going to have to do all this work together. But this is the process that you tell us as a young people we're supposed to subscribe to, right? It's supposed to take years to change, right? And so the same way, if y'all can't fight for a free $120, y'all ain't fighting for me. Let's just be for real. Let's just be for real. If you can't fight for $120, you're not fighting for better streets. You don't care. You're not fighting for. So to me, honestly, it's looking to me when I hear that, yes, that sounds daunting. But I'm looking at the older generation to say that this is the generation, or this is the process that y'all told me this is supposed to work. So show me that it works when it's free money on the table.
Yeah.
Because if we won't move for this, and then people tell us like, oh, young people won't vote.
Right.
Y'all don't believe in it. Y'all don't even. What are we doing? Like y'all don't even believe in it. Because
Right.
we did, we would move a little differently. I don't know if people connect those dots, but that's how I'm.
No, they
connecting them in my
don't.
mind.
I mean, but they did it with us when I was younger. They did it with us around hip hop.
Yeah.
They said that it was all this, like we were. First of all, they told us it was a fad. I'm a b-boy,
Mhm.
like a break dance, pop locking, and
One more commercial.
yeah. And
Yes.
so they told us it was a fad. But what was happening was that young men like me began to listen to Gil Scott-Heron.
Right back to the conversation with Jim Anderson show. If again, just before we get back into it, if you want to join the conversation, you can call in at 716-837-1112. Over the break, we were talking about something that I think is relatively relevant, or it is relevant to the conversation. What we were talking about is, I remember we were discussing how it's going to be difficult to get people to make these changes.
Right.
And we know that we live in a city politically that is just slow to
120.
move. We are slow to move. We are dragging our feet in the mud, probably going the other way. And so looking at it, I was saying, how do we get people to move? But to me, as a young person, because I recognize that I'm supposed to represent the young perspective here, as a young person,
Yes.
20, we're looking, let's say 20 years, how long
Ooh,
it's gonna take to
that's a
make
long
this change?
time.
20 years, that's my life.
That's
my life.
You'll
That's
be
my life.
You'll be old. You'll
I'm
be
20,
OG
that's
then.
20, that's 20 more.
You'll
That's,
be OG.
that's doubling up. I might be an OG. I might be Unk then, right? That's doubling up. But
Yeah.
to that point,
Get to it.
the question becomes, if that's so crazy, right? If this change that we know is for a free $120, and that's not the 20-year plan, that's soon. We can get the $120, we can get that act passed. That won't take forever or 20 years per se. That's just the infrastructure that's going to be built with it. But if we can't subscribe to that 20 years of change, how do you expect me as a young person to believe in the system, right? You're telling me that go out and vote, right? The political system will listen to you. If you go out and put our people in office, they'll make changes. But then there's a free $120 on the table, and y'all have no desire to go get it. So then you want me to believe you're going to fight for me for free because you like me?
I think this is where the community education, this is why our pop ed class, our popular education, like for instance, the way we deal with education at Push Buffalo and in the organizing I've been involved in since I was like 16 years old, growing up on South Side Chicago, et cetera, et cetera. Popular education is where we don't assume. So I'm not going to stand at some podium and bestow some great wisdom upon thee. No, I'm going to listen to what you understand. And we have young people involved. We have elders involved. We have community members involved. Women's voices are not drowned out as they are in certain meetings I've seen in Buffalo, in Birmingham, Alabama, Charlotte, North Carolina, Washington, D.C. Women's voices are actually listened to because we understand them to be human. And we understand that their voices are centered when it comes to the dynamics of how we live as community. That's an old hat.
Well, the earth is a mother. So
Right, earth is a
now
mother.
you
Right.
use that in that term.
Right.
But what Austin is saying is, how do you connect to a brother in the community or sister in the community with that vision you have? When you said you come to his house and saying, I'm going to save you, you're going to get $120 back. He either going to shut his door on you, or you're going to say, well, I might take it. It depends on how educated he is on this point before you get to the door.
Well, yeah, the canvassing that we do when we go door to door, we're doing some levels of what they call deep canvassing. So we ask more questions than we make statements. So I'm not going to just state to him immediately, you can save this amount of money. I'm going to listen. I'm going to ask him a question about his energy bills, about his life, who he is as a person, how he exists. I mean, what he's asking, really what Austin is asking is, he keeps asking questions, right?
Yeah.
And what happens is the elders, we often, and I'm not quite an elder yet, but we stick our fingers in our ears and go la 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 la, like children. Like children, we do
So
this.
like the Kirby vacuum cleaner.
Right.
Came to the back in the day.
I sold Kirby's.
Yeah, you sold Kirby. Now, yeah, let's go, mother. Get her to slide the microphone. Now, how did that go for you? Slide her the mic. Yeah, there we go. We gonna put her on blast. That's right.
That's relevant.
That's right.
How
That's
do you
relevant.
meet someone at a
please
door
let
and
us know
change their mindset?
when
And
you
that's what
come
we
in.
need to do.
With the Kirby's and the Cutco, I did both of them.
How do you
Yeah.
meet someone at a door, knowing that they have all these false beliefs against?
Switching
I
it now.
already
Yeah,
got
go ahead.
I already got it.
I already got this.
How do you get them to say,
Encyclopedia.
but I need the Kirby, because we need them to say, I need this heat act.
And how you gonna get my house?
But the
first?
reality is,
Yeah.
whenever you join one of these companies like Kirby or Cutco,
Mhm,
they tell you to start with the people who know, trust, and like you first,
mhm.
so that you can build up your knowledge or resistance that people might have on the quality of these products. I still think Kirby vacuums were actually one of the best.
Well,
Very
they are.
heavy.
Yes.
Cutco knives, I still have my
You got
set
the
from when I
knives, too?
sold
Oh,
them.
you got the
But I
encyclopedias?
think the reality, nope, I don't.
Okay,
I'm
you got the
digital
encycl-
with
oh,
that.
you digital.
Nope, didn't do
Okay,
that.
yeah.
But I will say, I think for this conversation, to bring it home is, as I'm listening, and we have different communication styles, I'm always like, to the point, how do we make it relevant?
Yes.
I think we need to tie some pieces into what happens when we don't make these choices. So for example, when our heater went down, when our gas heater went down, I have
Here
a
we
wood
go.
burning stove.
Ooh.
It didn't hurt us at all
No.
not to have our furnace pumping out heat, because we still had heat.
Right.
Because we had two alternatives. We have a generator if we needed something that way with a space heater,
Mhm.
or we had a wood burning stove. So we didn't have to worry about that. Another thing you talk about is that, so then people don't think about that, right?
Right.
We make choices with what can I do right now. We don't make the long-term choices, even when it comes to technical pieces. Like I always say, Apple is not the best computer, but
Mhm.
if you need service and support,
And help you through.
the operating system has been the same since conception.
Yeah,
If you
it's
go
the
back to
same.
an old Apple, an old one of those ones on the desk, the framework for it is pretty much the same. So I think when we're talking to people about things that people really do see as conceptual ideas when we talk about energy, I don't think that people understand how do you make it relevant. Right now, I was telling somebody else about this whole thing. I got a high blood pressure thing saying my blood pressure was high. So now I'm on this research of food. Then I find out it's not about just growing a farm. You need to know where your seeds come from. So going into the store, the Tops, and saying I'm going to grow some apples, and then I find out that the apple seeds I'm using are contaminated because that apple's not good. So I think when we're talking about these things, how do we make it relevant to people who are not that deep like me? I'm not that deep until I get a diagnosis that tells me now I have to be reactive. So if I would have grown up saying, don't eat sugar, eat good food, eat whole food, understand that you should exercise, I probably wouldn't be in reactive mode. But too often, I think in our cultures, we're in reactive mode. So I think when it came to those other items, those were, I bought the dream when you go in there that it was a good opportunity to make money. But the reality is, selling Cutco and Kirby, what they did do for me is quality.
Yeah.
It matters because it has longevity.
So now we back to national fuel in our community is reality to us, because this is what we all grew up on in the city of Beaufort, in Erie County, and across New York State. So now here we are with people saying now energy. Al Gore getting on the campaign back in the day when he finally decided as a president that it was a problem with global warming, things like that there. And so your organization has taken on this task. They need to do some data like UB is doing with Dr. Taylor. They have a survey team that goes on blocks and sit in the house and talk to the people and get the right information, bring that data back. And they get paid to do it. So it's got to be some opportunities for somebody to get some resources. And back to Austin.
And I want to say also on Push's behalf, because I did intern there, it is an organization relative to the location that it's at, where when it comes to changing a community, there's not only the ability to change, but you have to also create an appetite for change, right? And a lot of people in that community There's a lot of people who speak other languages, right? A lot of people who are a lot of different cultures who maybe the first thing you think when you come to a new country isn't, you know what, I'm about to go change it. You're probably just thinking, let me just get established. So understand that there's also a demographic who needs to be, like you said, educated and brought up to speed is important. And I also think for what you were saying, recognizing that national gas and fuel has this sense of credibility with Americans, that people trust these organizations. We have to, like, to what you were saying, do this work to really expose. And I think that we're aware of it. We have to be honest with ourselves. Maybe we got to get some, call in if you've ever had a heater break and tell me how long it took to get fixed. Show us
if you had the money.
Right. Or if you had the money,
money.
be like, we need to stop being so ashamed of like, oh no, I don't want to talk about it. No, I've been taking cold showers, man. We need to talk to somebody.
In the structure of you changing systems, I can give you a prime example. And you was talking about fires. Well, my house just caught on fire like 4 days ago, and it was wiring, old wiring. So now you're bringing in a new system that might have, you have to change your whole house from electrical all the way down, because we're using so much electrical devices. So that's going to be a cost. So that 120 that you just said that we might be getting back is being used up to have an electrician come in there. So all this stuff has to be in their place, Doc. So we know we hitting you in the head, but we're bored what you're saying.
No. So actually, the evidence shows that shifting to this electrification process using these other dynamics, and again, it's not just solar,
right?
And it's not to complete the New York Heat Act is not a complete erasure of the gas systems.
Right.
It is offering people an alternative and a process that is actually safer, that will keep us healthier. But the evidence shows that moving to these systems will actually be less expensive than you're maintaining a system. National Fuel is suggesting that we maintain a system that is literally producing. There was an explosion. Someone, a brother sent me a
Niagara
picture.
Falls.
I don't know if that's necessarily related to National Fuel Gas. I'm still studying that one. But there was a manhole cover a couple of years ago that blew up into the air, like 200 something feet into the air in Allentown area.
And that's rare in our area.
Well, in Birmingham, Birmingham, Alabama, there was an old area of the projects in this one area of
housing complexes. I don't like to call them projects.
And it was and it exploded.
Right.
So we're sitting on pipes,
of course,
that are rusting and deteriorating, and they want to constantly buttress this thing. It's kind of like I've got a broken arm, but I'm gonna keep putting a Band-Aid on it and hopes that it will heal. These processes
it will heal. It'll crooked. That's all.
But these processes,
right? It'll just be crooked now. Yeah. Sort of like the system.
Right, so it's like the system.
Right? Now,
on 18 levels, we can have a whole thing on just how.
Doc, I like you. You are right. The reverend is coming out of you now.
Yeah, but not to interrupt, I just want to say before we hop back onto we have a call. I want to give him a chance to call. Caller, you are on the air. Good morning.
Program, but I'm kind of confused about what you're talking about, because I have National Grid, and if it wasn't for National Grid, I have a gas fireplace, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you now.
Right.
So what's the difference between what y'all trying to talk about and National Gas? Because I want to get in my house, I'm going to get another gas fireplace. I thought that would save our lives.
Right, but what happens is that this is only a temporary fix, because the gas itself, I mean, we talk about the electricity, right? And we talk about the electricity is backed by a literally dangerous construct that is causing health issues to our children, our youth. It's deteriorating the planet.
Ventilation.
It's causing, there's ventilation issues. People died inside of their cars trying to preserve their life from the horrible winter we had. And these things, these climate constructs are caused in part by the systems that are currently in place. So whereas that temporary turning on the fuel on your gas stove kept you warm, there's also the emissions of the gas leaks that come in through the house that are causing a slow death that way. It's a slow sickness and a slow illness, but it's an illness for sure. We have a really high rate of asthma. I have asthma, and I just, I have this gas stove in the house. I got an electric stove to replace it, but then I got to pay for the whole infrastructure to be changed, and then I don't own
So
the
that's
house.
what we just talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing is, there is funding to do this, and this entire process would be less expensive than what we have currently to keep maintaining what we have now.
I'm
And
just
that's
trying to
the
ask
key-
a
that's the
question
key thing.
because I'm trying to simplify what she's asking because I was a little confused too. So you're saying like there's money for certain things, but could you really like break it down to a 5-year-old? Like what are you talking about? Like what can we do today? If I have so you're saying if I have a gas stove, there might be a program to help me convert that to an electric system.
We have Push Green, which helps in weatherization,
Green.
and there is funding that is in this climate law that's set up in these systems. If these things are passed, that can start slowly. It's a slow process. It ain't just like tomorrow.
20 years.
Right. Well, and I'm using that loosely
Yeah,
because
loosely.
the problem with that is, as a climate guy,
Right.
I'm kind of like, oh my goodness, we don't have a lot of time. We got to switch these things over fast.
Now.
But that that stresses people out and all this kind of stuff because they believe in the gas because you've been told that it's a good idea.
Yeah.
However,
Well, we
our
ain't been
children
told.
have
It's just
asthma
been pushed on us.
and emphysema and cancer, et cetera, et cetera. So there's all these problems with that. But again, we have a pop ed class that we're going to be starting at June 6th. I want people to come on out. It's at 429 Plymouth Avenue.
And what's the time?
It's going to be 5 to 7. 5 to 7.
I'm going to come.
I want you to come. Bring folks with you. And make sure you tell me
Well,
so we can make sure we have food
about
and snacks for you.
19 youth from my program.
Okay.
Right now in the city of Buffalo, and they paid, so they will come in there. As long as you have some for them to eat.
He said he's gonna have food.
Yeah. And so,
but I ain't gonna have a smorgasbord.
They're going to be asking
now,
questions
but-
like Austin, because this is the future. This is from the
I
age
wanna
of
make
14
sure I
to
address
20.
that.
That's going to be asking questions, and they're going to come right. They're going to be like, look, we used to one thing. So here we are back on the, Jim Anderson show, asking questions. Doc, you didn't probably think you was going to come in here and get it like this. But
No, I'm fine.
yeah, you fine?
Yeah.
Great.
But
So
the
back to
popular
Austin.
education class
Yes.
is where Austin and other young people will have their voice heard because we're answering these questions together. We're solving these issues together. We can't do this as it's not me and some members of Push and we're coming down from some great Mount Ararat or something and we're going to bestow this great wisdom on. That's not what's happening.
I got you.
We will collectively figure this out. That's literally the only way. Push has historically been community centered. And so a pop ed class is about what do you know now? What do we have? What can we look at? What are the processes for transformation?
So you said June.
This will be June 6th, and it'll be from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. It'll be at Push Buffalo's office. It's the old school 77, which has been restructured. It has some solar dynamics to it. And then
what government funds?
Yeah, the funds from some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And there are buildings. There's a green development zone around the Push offices that deals with geothermal and solar, and it's working. The stuff is working.
So as we swing to the later half of the interview, we're going to kind of shift to some current news in Buffalo. I want to speak, though, before we get to that point, just to simplify it for all the listeners. As I've now heard all the information, I think this is what I'm coming to. The first conclusion, which is this: you can keep your gas if you want to. Right. You can keep your gas stove. You can buy the other gas furnace if you want it. What we're saying is that you should have a right to make a choice, not an order. Right. It's not a directive. Because right now you couldn't go out and say, you know what, I want to lower my. You couldn't. Right. You kind of have to play by the rules that are set. And so rather than limiting yourself to a box, just give yourself the freedom of choices. Number one. Number two, it's not so much about changing what we're doing right now, but it's also about creating boundaries with these companies to say you can't just run up the money whenever you want. They're talking about a 30% rate hike just because they can. They can just write it in and we're just going to be like, cool. That's also the other principle. In politics, I think I'm going to keep saying it. In Buffalo, we keep dragging our feet and then we get surprised when stuff hits us in the face because it's 120. It might be 120 now, but we also are aware of inflation is out of control. Right. So we need to set fences and boundaries to say that even if we're going to say this is the only option we want, let's put a limit on how much we're going to let them charge us. If y'all want gas, then stop letting them run up the gas bill. That's all I'm saying. But as that's just what I wanted to say as a young person, because I think sometimes we it's either them or us, and that's not what it really is. And for the caller, I appreciate your call, but we're not trying to take away your gas. That's all I wanted to be
That's
clear.
it.
But it just got to be
Thank
a
you.
choice.
He
It's
said
just got to be a
Doc is
choice.
not trying to take away your gas.
But
Thank
to
you.
that point, as we shift to the second half,
Thank you.
and we're gonna have you repeat that event thing at the end before we close out. But as we shift to the second half, I know there was some news that happened recently in Buffalo.
Ooh.
Murray, maybe do you want to start and touch
Yes,
us
yes.
to that topic?
You know, things are happening in the city of Buffalo. Great things are happening in the city of Buffalo with our youth. You know, a situation happened 2 days ago, actually 2 days. Young 14-year-old lost her life going to a party. From what we're gathering information, and about 6 youth were shot in the city of Buffalo. And I never knew that they changed some things already. Austin, if you have 4 people shot in one area, that is now like your Columbine. They put it in that category as that. It's not before you can have 4 people shot, just 4 people shot. Now that they put it in certain criterions of violence. And so now here in Buffalo, now we have to mourn a 14-year-old young young lady that was shot and killed in the city of Buffalo. I'm going to a party. I don't get how we have parties, young folks from the age of 14, 16, 17, 18 years old out on our streets at 11, 10, 12 o'clock at night. And parents are not calling and find out where the kids are. And some of this stuff is not just on the Buffalo police, it's on parents. You have to start checking to see where your babies are at. If they're not in the home or they're telling you they're going to spend a night somewhere else, you need to start checking on them. This incident is horrific, but we can't have these things happening in our city. We have programs out here for young folks to be off the street, and some of them are getting paid. Push Buffalo as well. So this incident hits home because 514 is less than a mile away from what just took place. That massacre that took place there, now we having the same thing. We are having genocide going on amongst ourselves with young folks with guns and things like that there. And that's where we at with it. We're going to be there tomorrow. I believe they're having something at Mandela's. They're going to bring hot dogs and all that there. I think Snug is going to be there representing that piece, but other organizations are going to be there as well. But sometimes we are so reactive instead of being proactive. And that's where it falls short. Parents, I'm saying this clearly to grandparents that's listening to this station, you need to check on your grandbabies and put the call out and say, Shaniqua or whatever their name is, where you at? And take ownership to it, because it's getting ridiculous right now that young folks is going out to the library. Every day after they get out of school, we have at least 100 to 200 kids at the library fighting, and no one is being accountable. And parents know that this is going on. Some of these parents like to fight or want to see this happen, but God forbid that this go further than that. And we always push it on summer, but a gun don't just take off for the summer. A gun is winter, spring, and fall. And so if you got issues with young folks carrying guns and using them and spraying into crowds and things like that there, we're going to have a major issue here. And the mayor has been here talking about it as well. But the ownership comes back to the parent. I'm just being clear on that. It comes back to the parent. Don't come back to Stop the Violence Coalition or any of these groups. It goes back to the parents.
And with respect, with proper respect to the passing, us young dudes out here, we don't know how to fight. We just got switches and we just letting them go. We don't know what's going on. And I think what I look at it is, I was told when I was young.
What's a switch? Let them know what a switch is.
So if you have a certain type of pistol, semi-automatic pistols, you can get a piece that you can attach to the back, or it's illegal to have. You can modify the pistol and allow it to shoot automatically.
And that word, so for the old people that didn't know, I'm just calling y'all old, but this terminology is not there for y'all to know. You got to know how they language, and you just said that clearly.
Yeah, you got to be aware. But to this, I think this is what I'm seeing. As I was told by an elder when I was younger, they said kids have so much energy in a day, and if you don't have outlets for good, it's only gonna go one other place.
Right.
And so what I look at when I see all the why are young people out? What else should they be doing that time? Right? Why are young people out at a party? Where are the things going on, or where are the structure in the community to say, hey, if you want to do blank, come here.
So
right?
Weinstein said it very clearly. He said when the news came on, he said, "Do you know your children are?" And that was a great statement to make. But like you said, what do kids do?
Right.
Sitting at home,
You see stuff like the 33 plan, but all our parks is getting destroyed. Like we don't got like these. They were called third-party spaces, and what they are is, as a community develops, you need places where people can interact with other walks of life. We don't have to necessarily just pay to go, right? So we can just chill, right? You don't see basketball courts as full anymore. You don't see parks as full. You don't see kids running around as much anymore. So a party becomes the option. And I'm not saying it should be the option, but this is what happens when a community doesn't find other outlets for the energy that the youth has.
So 400 people on a street party, that is a lot of people to be there with no one taking responsibility for whoever's at the party or the police saying this is too many, something has to happen.
That's
shut down or whatever happens. So now we go to a man that's in the booth there that we have to bring young folks here to give them the right knowledge about this. See, it's not being pushed out there with the shots and all them to get to them. The Benny the Butchers there to come on in Buffalo, their home place, and say we're going to have a safe event. Juneteenth is getting ready to come up. I got to figure out who's going to come there to gravitate them and say nonviolence begins with me. So that means nobody's coming in with a stretch, with a burner or anything. We're going to have a good time and you're going to go home and be ready. That day, we just giving you a pass. See, sometimes you got to give up a pass when you're doing this stuff here. And see, young folks right now, we pushing out with the Kia boys and all that there. We giving them so much recognition, and it's not just them. It's just that's the fads that come off the minds. But when you have people, young folks love to videotape. We should be getting swamped right now with the police department with video of who these persons was. And now we get them off our street. We get them the help that they need, not just to get off our street, because you can't take a young folks and just lock them up. You got to get them some help and some resources to why they were doing it. It becomes health and all that. There's more to it besides just shooting the gun.
That's the issue.
Yes.
There is so much more here. For instance, there's a brother in St. Louis, I think it was St. Louis, Missouri, who found that some of the children are hungry.
Right.
And so he started doing some urban farming. I did urban farming down in Birmingham. When the children began to engage the urban farming, it wasn't just so that they, we like to say, so they have something to do. No. Yeah. The children started to eat the food. The nutrition went to their brains and their bodies. I know how I get when I'm hungry.
Right.
Imagine if someone is experiencing hunger.
Yes.
So hungry is just, you're just hungry, right? Hunger is you have no idea where food is coming from. So that's a major stressor in your head. It affects your neurological system. And our children are going to school in hunger.
Yes.
And so they're filled with rage and sadness and grief. And then they live in conditions where there are, we call them Swiss cheese houses.
Yes.
They live in hellish nightmare conditions. These are not them causing these things to happen
14,
to themselves.
13-year-olds. Yes.
This is not someone, this is not them making that, because, Black folks, we are real good at beating ourselves up and saying we did this and we don't do enough of that. But these are outside constructs that are happening. That's a long conversation. But the children, so once they started feeding these children in this area, the violent crime, not just petty crime, violent crime went down in these areas.
And I think that it's even going back to what you're talking about, what we even started with, what I opened with is the environment that we create. When we can't just go to our friend house and chill, we got to go to a party.
Right.
Because our friend house got nowhere for us to chill at. This is no place for us to relax. I can't even relax in my own home. I'm safer. I feel more comfortable out with my guys than when I'm at home, because at home we don't got no heat. And this is what we're even going back to. It all kind of coalesce into each other. As we leave out on this interview, I want to make sure you get your last words in for what you were talking about as far as environmental justice, but also just reiterate the event and any important contact information for you and for the things that you do at Wix.
Okay, so quickly, there's the utility justice pop ed class. I want all of you to come out. We have some space. I might have to switch it to our gymnasium at School 77. That'll be from 5 to 7 p.m. That's going to be on the 6th of June from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And we'll be discussing some of these issues around utility justice, what's happening with national fuel, etc. My number is 224-431-6244, 224-431-6244. Please text me, because I don't just randomly pick up the telephone. And that's it.
All right, and we're heading out. Anything you want to?
We out.
All right, appreciate you guys. Be back next week. Have a good one. Bye, Buffalo.